It had been a bad day for Tyler Whitney. He was looking out the train door. He looked at the clock. The train was leaving soon, very soon. His friend had not shown up yet. The train was leaving in 1 minute. He looked up at the balcony. The authorities were there. He knew they could ruin everything. He walked back to his compartment. Robert Cath had not shown up, and unfortunately, he would never see him again. Robert Cath rode on his motorcycle by the train. He had to get on. He jumped off and grabbed the door. He opened it, and he was in. He opened another door, and he was in the sleeping compartment. He saw the conductor. "Do you know where Tyler Whitney's compartment is?" Robert Cath asked. "Oh, Tyler Whitney, your compartment is number 1, the conductor said. The conductor walked by. "He thinks I am Tyler," he thought to himself. He walked to the very end of the hall and knocked on the door. There was no answer. He knocked again, and no answer. He opened the door, shut it, and gasped. There was a significant amount of blood around his best friend's body. Robert Cath started to get tears in his eyes. He would give him a proper farewell, but he didn't want anyone to know. He opened the window and threw the body out the window. Then he took off his coat and threw it out the window. He had to find out who the person responsible was. From now on, he would have to pretend to be Tyler Whitney. After all, he wasn't even supposed to be on the train. Robert Cath looked up and noticed a suitcase. He pulled it down and looked inside of it. There were a bunch of pictures and a lot of things. The first thing that got his attention was a scroll. He walked into the hallway. The conductor was gone. He looked in the book and took the passenger list. He went and rolled it up. He looked at it. It had a picture of an orange bird with a long, long tail. The rest was written in some writing he couldn't understand. He put it in his pocket. Then he noticed a purple and red scarf that had the letter W on it by a trunk. He looked at it and smelled it. Then he pulled out an old letter from the suitcase and pocketed that. Back to the compartment, he looked at the list. His name wasn't on it. He was running from the authorities. He didn't kill the man. He was a doctor trying to help, but the authorities blamed him and tried to catch him. Anyway, he walked to the restaurant on the train. He noticed a lady in red and purple clothing. She was talking with someone else he didn't know. The man she was talking to called her Wolf. Wolf. Robert Cath thought to himself. The scarf was purple and red. She had purple and red clothing on. Her last name was Wolf, and the scarf had a W. Then all of a sudden, the lights went out. Chapter 3. More info. The train master walked in, and the lights went back on. "Don't worry, technical difficulties fixed," said the train master. He then walked behind the curtain. Nobody could go past it except the conductors, him, and the cooks. Then a man in an orange coat walked up to Robert. "Do you have the gold?" he asked. Robert didn't say anything. "Tyler Whitney, first, you're late to the meeting we were supposed to have, and then you won't answer me." "Where is the gold?" the man said. "Everyone is convinced I'm Tyler Whitney," Robert thought to himself. "I don't have it now, but I will get it later, mister." Robert was interrupted. "Schmidt," said the man. "Well, good. I'll suspect the gold before we get to Munich," said Schmidt. Schmidt left. Robert walked up to the lady named Wolf. He pulled out the scarf found at the scene and asked, "Is this your scarf?" "No," and replied. Robert Cath went into the smoking room and noticed a man. He pulled out the scroll and asked the man if he could translate it. "It's a fairy tale about the Firebird, a little children's story," the man said. "Could you read it to me?" asked Robert. "No," said the man. He gave him back the scroll. Robert then decided to go back to his compartment. When he got there, a man was sitting on his bed. "What are you doing here?" the man asked. "This is my compartment," Robert said. "This is Tyler's compartment," the man said. He looked on the floor and noticed blood and pulled out a knife. "Wait a minute. Let's settle it without violence," Robert said. "You murderer," the man yelled. The man lashed out with his knife, but Robert dodged. Then the man tried to hit him again, and Robert ran out of the way, and the man hit the wall with the knife. Then he pulled the knife out and quickly swung at Robert's head. Robert ducked and jumped out of the way of the next swing. Then the man cornered him and threw the knife at Robert. It hit a trunk Robert didn't notice before. Robert pulled it out and handed it back to the man. As I was about to say, I didn't kill him, said Robert. Liar, yelled the man. The man swung at Robert's neck. Robert ducked again before it hit him. Who are you? The man asked and yelled. I'm telling you, I didn't kill him, Robert yelled. The man jumped towards him, but Robert kicked him, and he fell into a pile of clothes and suitcases. Robert opened the window and climbed out, quickly pulling himself onto the moving train. He almost lost his balance and fell off. Then the man climbed up too. You're really desperate to escape, aren't you? Asked the man. I didn't kill him, yelled Robert. The man jumped at Robert and Robert moved, and the man almost fell over the edge, hanging on for his life. Robert went over and pulled him up. The man looked extremely thankful. You are no murderer. You are a lifesaver, the man said. I'm sorry I attacked you, but Tyler was a good friend of mine, he also said. He was a good friend of mine also. I found out he was dead at least half an hour ago. I threw his body out the window, said Robert. What's your name? Asked the man. Robert Kath, said Robert. Tyler talked about you a lot, said the man. What's your name? Asked Robert. Stephen, said Stephen. Let's get back into the train, said Robert. They both went through Robert's window. Listen, I'm trying to find the murderer, but I need to know more about Tyler Whitney, said Robert. I'll tell you more in the morning, said Stephen. Stephen left, and Robert decided to get some sleep. Robert woke up, and it seemed to be in the middle of the night. He decided to look at the trunk that wouldn't open before. It still wouldn't open. It looked like it needed a key. Perhaps there was something important in here that the person responsible for the crime wanted to hide and disposed of the key. Robert kicked it and slammed it, but it still wouldn't open. He decided to give up. Perhaps this was the perfect time to investigate Tyler's murder. He walked outside his compartment and heard a window breaking. He ran to the sound and then heard a growling noise in someone's compartment. He kicked down the door, and it looked like some man he had never seen on the train before was attacking, and then the man looked at Robert. His face looked all wrinkled, but only looked 30 years old, perhaps. Also, another weird thing about this man was that his eyes seemed to be glowing yellow. Then the man made a growling noise and opened his mouth. It looked like he had sharp teeth. Robert did what he saw in the movies and picked up a cross on the table and held it up to the man. It looked like the man started burning and stumbled back. Let's get away from here, said, and almost jumping behind Robert. Robert threw the cross at the man. Then and Robert started running down the hallway. The man chased after them. Is he a vampire? Asked Anne. I think so, said Robert. Then Anne was holding on to Robert. You're not Tyler Whitney, Anne said. That doesn't matter right now, said Robert. They realized the door to the second train was locked and noticed the man was right behind them. So, Robert and Anne, you're both here, and I'm really hungry, the man said. Stephen, is that you? Asked Robert. Yes, it is me. And about Tyler Whitney, I was the one who killed him, Stephen said. Why were you after me? Asked Anne. Oh, because I came to thank you for letting me borrow your scarf. I tried to make it look like you did it, Stephen said. I never gave you my scarf, said Anne. You're right, I stole it, said Stephen. Why did you go to my compartment a second time after you killed him? Asked Robert. Well, you had to die also, said Stephen. Why did you have to try to kill me? Asked Robert. Well, you see, the master wants your kind dead, said Stephen. What do you mean, our kind? There are billions of humans. Why us? Asked Anne. Well, you are different than most people, just the three of you. Tyler Whitney, Robert Kath, and you, and, said Stephen. What do you mean we are different? Asked Robert. I've had enough of this, said Stephen. He jumped at Anne, but Anne moved out of the way, and Robert and ran the other way, with Anne leading. and ran into her compartment, and so did Robert. Her dog, Max, was in there. "We are going to make it off this train alive," said, and packing as much as she could. Then she opened the window. "We are going to jump out," said Anne. "What? You're crazy. You're insane. Stephen broke down the door. "You're smart." Robert Kath finished. And Robert jumped out along with Anne's dog Max. They started rolling. Then the train went by. "I can't believe that there is such a thing as a vampire, and I jumped out of a window." "Just look at my dress," said Anne. "And at least we are safe, and so is your dog," said Robert. "How about the other people on the train?" asked Anne. Then they saw Stephen running at them, and immediately pulled a cross from her suitcase. Stephen immediately stopped and started walking up to him, and he took steps back. She got really close to him, and he fell to the ground. "Get that cross away from me." "I promise I won't attack," said Stephen in pain. "Liar," said Anne and brought the cross even closer to him. Robert picked up a stick and sharpened its end with a pocket knife. The correct way to handle vampires was to stab them in the heart with something like a stake. This would be close enough. Robert walked by and put the stake to Stephen's chest. "Tell us what we want to know, and we will spare you," said Robert. The sun is coming out," said Stephen. They looked up and noticed the sun was slightly rising. They picked Stephen up and put him under the shade in a big, shady area. "Okay, why does your master want us dead?" asked Robert. "It is a prophecy. Every year, 10 people must be killed and brought to the master, where the master sucks all their blood to replenish his strength," said Stephen. "Any reason why we are on the list?" asked Anne, still holding the cross up. "Robert disposed of one of the ones that I killed, and you, and also know about the murder," said Stephen. Robert looked shocked. "Okay, I knew he was killed. I wanted to talk to him, saw his dead body, and I ran right away, not telling anybody, and started to cry." Then there was a growl behind Robert. Robert looked behind him and saw another vampire, and screamed and dropped the cross. Stephen jumped up, and the 2 vampires circled Robert and Anne. Robert quickly grabbed the cross and held it up. The 2 vampires backed up, and Robert ran into the sunlight. If vampires go into sunlight, they turn to dust. They ran as far into the forest as they could, knowing the vampires could only stay there and not catch them. They still kept running. They stopped to rest at a tree. "We've got to stop these vampires from giving the master strength," said Anne. "Let's worry about getting to the Paradise Hotel, where the train was taking us, first," said Robert. They got up and started walking. Anne was the one to see the town first. She quickly told Robert, and they both ran toward it. The first thing they did was get something to eat. They went to Burger King, as it was the first place they saw. They both ordered plain cheeseburgers with medium fries. They sat down at a table in the corner. "Oh, and could you translate this?" Robert pulled out the scroll with the Firebird on it. It is a story of the prince and the Firebird. Basically, the story is about a prince who discovers a bird made of fire in the forest of magical beings. The prince took it back to his village. Then anybody that took anything from the forest would have a curse put on them. The curse was the bird burned the village, and everybody was killed. "Wow, how did you learn how to read it?" Robert asked. "My father taught me. He is an archaeologist, so he knows a lot of languages and writings, and he taught me some of it and replied." "We failed to get them," Stephen said. A vampire that had wrinkles all over, pointed ears, and yellow eyes walked up to Stephen. "Stephen, you have worked for me for 300 years almost. Now, you wouldn't like to go out in sunlight, would you?" "Well, if those 2 aren't here within a week, you're going to kiss daylight." "Yes, master, I'll make sure I get them," Stephen said. "Oh yes, what's the news about the Firebird?" the master vampire asked. "Well, Tyler Whitney had its egg, but before I killed him, he threw it out the window," Stephen said. "So, another reason for you to go out in sunlight." "Oh well, you have a week to get the Firebird, Robert, and here, and 10 other sacrifices here," the master vampire said. "I will get everything for you, master," Stephen said. "Do you believe the story is true?" asked Robert. Well, yesterday afternoon, I didn't believe in vampires, so possibly it could be true, and said, "Hey, where's Max?" asked Robert. "Oh, Max is waiting outside," and said, "And Wolf, your name sounds really familiar." "Well, like I've known your name for a long time," Robert said, and smiled and said, "Oh, I have the third smartest dog on earth." "Max is that smart, huh?" Robert asked. "Yes, he is. I worked really hard training him," and replied, "Well, it seems like you're done with our sandwich. Let's go check into that Paradise Hotel," Robert said. "Hopefully at IS Paradise," and replied. They both got out and stopped a cab. The cab drove them to the hotel, and was pleased it let dogs in as long as any messes were cleaned up. They decided they would have the same room with 2 separate beds and a very comfortable couch, in Anne's opinion. "It's just so wonderful in here," Anne said, thrusting her arms to embrace the room. "Well, it's better than the last hotel I had to stay at. They had mice there," Robert said. "Well, about the vampires, do you think we should have to worry about them?" Anne asked. Robert sighed. "Well, just to be safe, we should have Max be a guard dog, and we both stay up really late." Anne sat down on one of the beds. Well, they were talking about something with their master returning strength. "Well, whatever it was, I don't think we've seen the last of any of those vampires," Robert said, slumping down on the couch. "That is the last time I am ever going to put up with that," said Anne while panting and sweating. "It looks like all the vampires went back. They can't get us in the forest now," Robert replied. "Don't be so sure," a voice said from behind them. They quickly turned around to see a man holding a golden egg. "So, it is the chosen ones. Well, after this bird is done with you, I think your blood will taste very good," the man said with an ominous laugh. He cracked the egg, and they heard the sound an eagle would make. The next thing they saw surprised them. There seemed to be a small explosion and a really bright light, and they saw fire in the shape of an eagle. "The Firebird is real," yelled Anne in great surprise. "Burn them," the vampire yelled. The bird started towards them, but then a small dragon-like creature flew down and swung a sword at it. The bird flew back a little, and then the dragon stabbed the vampire in the chest. The vampire turned to dust. Then they heard a very loud sound, almost as if it was in their minds. "Aku wa mi tu a mamesis tir bearderd." The Firebird flew off in a different direction, deeper into the forest. Then they looked at the dragon, which slowly morphed into a human. "It looked like you two were in trouble, so I came to help you," the man said. He was about their age, 17 or 18. He had brown hair and glasses and wasn't very tall, like Robert. Robert was tall with blue eyes and brown hair, and was tall also, with long blonde curly hair and blue eyes. What are you?" stuttered Anne, still in surprise from the encounter with the Firebird and the small dragon. "Oh, my name is Kevin. My father." Kevin's face made a twitch, "is the master vampire. He had me when he was dead, so I'm able to morph into a dragon. The thing is, I'm not even close to as powerful as he is. He lives underground, but he had me locked up in the castle in the forest. I just escaped, and Merlin let me stay at his cabin in the forest," Kevin said. "Merlin?" Anne asked, puzzled. "Wow, you don't know a lot about the forest." "Yes, Merlin lives in a cabin here." "Now, what are you doing in the forest?" Kevin asked. They explained everything. The train, Stephen telling them they were the chosen ones, in the forest before, and at the Paradise Hotel. "The chosen ones?" "Yeses." Kevin morphed into a dragon and flew around them happily. Then he landed and turned human again. "Sorry, I'm just so happy. Follow me," Kevin said in great joy. "Can you tell us more about the forest, like why it's enchanted?" Robert asked. "Well, the special thing about the forest is it is right below heaven and right above hell," Kevin said. "The gods up above put a lot of enchantments on the forest to keep people from going into it and being killed by demons or something. The master's castle is in the forest, and so is his home, underground, and Merlin's hut." "Is the Firebird from heaven or hell?" Anne asked. "Well, It's from heaven. The thing is, whoever has the egg can control it, and the master has the egg. If the egg were to break, the bird would be free. They stopped at a path where there was a straight trail with nothing in the way. Robert started to walk through, then Kevin grabbed him. This is one of the enchantments. Normal people would walk forever in this since it never ends for them. We are all not normal, so we can go through, but there's one thing you should know. We have to run through fast. Otherwise, it might eat us. Run. All of them ran through the trail as fast as they could. And Robert noticed that it was getting narrower the further they went. Then they saw a bright light and ran through it. They went through, and the trail ended. They saw a hut. They turned behind them, and the light and trail were gone. This is Merlin's cabin. Let's go in, Kevin said. He knocked on the door, and there was another bright light, then darkness. An invisible force threw in Max, Robert, and Kevin. Merlin, do you have to have the door like that? Asked Kevin. Then a man in a blue cloak with a lot of stars and a blue pointed hat, with a very long beard, appeared out of thin air. Oh, sorry about that. I see you've brought some guests with you, the man said. I for one am hungry. They heard a voice say behind them. They turned around and looked at Max. Oops, the dog said, while moving his mouth, and clutched her heart. You can talk, and gasped. Robert was very shocked also. It didn't seem unusual to Kevin or Merlin, though. So, you are the chosen ones. It's very obvious with a talking dog and these vampires after you, said Merlin. I haven't talked in almost 100 years, and now since my secret has been found out, I'm going to talk as much as I want, said Max, rather happily. Vampires, heaven, hell, magic, Merlin, enchanted forest, dragons, a bird made of fire, might as well have a talking dog that has lived for over 100 years, said and sarcastically. In a couple of weeks will be my 543rd birthday, said Max. Max, this is quite a shock to us, but can you explain your living so long and talking? Robert asked, confused. Well, you see, I was Valerius's dog. She was a powerful sorceress, and she was practicing spells on me, said Max.